Hi, welcome to another edition of Exploring Hobbies. I'm Jamie Fouché, and I have with me today Owen Croteau and Kevin Keenan, who are going to talk to us about blacksmithing. Hi, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thanks for letting us invade your space today.
Welcome to CJ Ford.
Thank you. So why don't we start off with just talking about how you got started in blacksmithing?
I got a job at Greenfield Village and learned blacksmithing there from the late William Smith. Worked with him for 5 years and got a good enough background to continue doing that, and have been making my living at blacksmithing since '76.
Excellent. Kevin?
I was at the time I got interested in blacksmithing, I was a fabricator welder, and I started fooling around trying to make furniture on my own, and I was having a difficult time twisting and shaping the steel with nothing but a torch at hand, and someone said I need to search out a blacksmith. So there was a festival going on in northern Michigan up in Hartwick Pines State Park up in Grayling, and there was a group of blacksmiths there for Black Iron Days. I met Owen, I met several other blacksmiths, but Owen and I became really good friends, and that's how it all started. He taught myself, and he's taught just about everybody that's involved in the shop, and a lot of people that we know.
Excellent. And so what led to actually getting this shop put together? Because I'm assuming back in those days there wasn't this location that you went to. How'd that come about?
Well, we both had our day job. He was working as a full-time blacksmith at the time, and I was doing it as a hobby in the evenings in my garage. I had a meager setup, and I just had such a passion for it, and fell in love with it so much that I wanted to eventually do it as a living. And so once my little side orders got to the point where I thought it would make sense to get ready to make the big jump, we found an old building here in Hazel Park, and it was just basically almost just a warehouse at the time, just storing some equipment for another former business, and we went to work on it. It didn't look anything like this. It was a bit of a mess, but
Yeah.
With a lot of sweat equity between all of us, we turned it into CJ Forge.
Got it all put together. So what type of people are usually attracted to the hobby or even the profession of blacksmithing?
All types, all types. The gamut runs from children to grandparents, judges to derelicts. It's anybody that's got the interest of shaping a piece of steel that's taken as granted as being hard, tough, and unmanageable. And you're making something soft. There's a thing about hot steel that gets within you that you can change this. It can become what you want it to be, rather than a piece off any common shelf.
You're molding it.
Yes. It's not mass-produced, it's not stamped out, it's actually created. We take the raw materials and get it hot, take it to the anvil, shape it.
Great. So it sounds like that's a pretty broad range of different types of people. What kind of skills do you need to get started in this?
Hand-eye coordination helps.
Okay.
Another one, recognizing the hot steel, the ability to raise a hammer. That'd be a good start.
Okay.
Other than that, there are no real special skills. You need to be a little bit nimble on your feet, because sparks do fly around and you have to jump out of the way of falling hot steel. But otherwise, it's primarily being able to hold a hammer.
Okay.
And move to where it needs to be worked on.
All right. All right. What kind of tools are involved, right? I see the anvils, obviously, but what else? What other kind of tools do you use in doing the different pieces?
The most important tool is the fire.
Okay.
If you don't have a source of heat to get the steel hot, you're not going to be able to use any of the other tools. So if the fire is the primary one. The next one would be a hard surface to work on. We've got anvils. We've got a couple different shapes here. We've got the London pattern. We've got a European pattern.
Okay.
Some blacksmiths that start off in their backyard use a block of steel. Some use railroad track, which is hard steel. But it gets the job done. A lot of people start off that way.
Yeah.
Then you need something. You need a hammer and something to hold the hot steel with, which are called tongs.
Okay. blacksmithing has been around for a really long time, right? Obviously, right? We used to shoot horses and do all that kind of thing. Has it changed over the years, or is it still fundamentally the same as it was way back in the day?
Blacksmithing basically started with the Iron Age around 1100 BC,
Okay.
although there are iron parts have been found in the pyramids that date to 3600 BC.
Wow.
The evolution of the iron is basically the type of metal that's used, primarily since the Industrial Revolution came around in the mid-1800s, when steel was manufactured in mass quantities. The tools basically remain the same. The thing that's different is the metal. You have to know what type of metal that you're working with in order to, you have to stay within certain temperatures.
Okay.
But primarily, it's the same. We have a modern power hammer here. That's a 400-pound hammer. They had power hammers way back. You can look in the Diderot's Encyclopedia. It was written, I think that was around 1560. Anyway, 16th century encyclopedia that has all the different trade shops, and the blacksmith shop section has the exact same tools that we're using right here.
You mentioned different metals. So is there kind of like a decision process that has to do with, you know, what types of metals work well with what type of job, or is it preference? How does that work?
Basically, you want a mild steel for doing what we do here, the custom work, custom hardware.
Okay.
The different alloys come in when you need certain tools, or you need a project that needs to withstand certain conditions. So if you want to make a chisel,
Okay.
you want something that's harder, something that's going to hold an edge.
Got it.
But it's going to be hit, so you want a little bit of resiliency with it so it doesn't shatter.
All right.
So that, yeah, it's knowing which types of steel fit a certain job.
Got
But
it.
primarily for the fun in blacksmithing, just mild steel. You just go to any steel outlet and get what's called A36, which is the mild steel in the hot rolled, and most of the time it will cooperate.
It'll work with you. Okay, great. So if we went out and bought steel, or if you needed to invest in some of those initial tools, what kind of costs can people expect just to kind of get started?
You can, on a real cheap run, you can go to a flea market and pick up a hammer for $2.
All right.
You can pick up a block of steel off the street and go to the scrapyard. You got your anvil. You could build a forge just with a brake drum, a floor plate in the bottom of it, hook up a blower and some simple plumbing parts, and you've got a forge.
Okay.
The thing then is you need to find some fuel. You can make your own charcoal, use lump charcoal, or go to a coal yard and pick up coal.
All right. And are there any type of clubs or groups that people could join if they're looking to kind of get some exposure, to try it out, to, you know, meet others who are doing this? Are there any kind of clubs like that?
Absolutely.
Okay.
MABA, Michigan Artist Blacksmith Association, is active here in this state, and they are a chapter or an affiliate of a larger group that is a BANA, that is the national organization. But MABA is it's a hobbyist group that's totally dedicated to promoting blacksmithing here in the state of Michigan. They put out a fantastic newsletter, comes out every other month, that lets you know what's going on around the state. It's full of how-tos, and it's basically focused on it for beginners. You know, and I mean, there's people of all skill levels that are in the group, but that's how I got started. MABA actually is what led me to find Owen up at Hartwick Pines. At the time I talked to the editor of MABA, and she told me about the festival. And yeah, that's in fact, you can I believe it's miblacksmith.org.
Okay.
And that's where you can find them online. And we have meetings. The club has meetings every other month in the cooler months. You know, January, February, March. After that, when the summer comes around, there are so many festivals going on and so many different places where you can go and see blacksmithing and do blacksmithing that we just list all those so people can still stay active and stay informed.
Okay, great. Do either of you have like a favorite project or something that you've completed that you want to talk about? Maybe something that was really challenging, or...
Oh, mine are my two daughters.
I'm sure that was challenging.
Yes, we had challenges, but blacksmithing allowed me to raise them.
Okay.
So that's fine. Otherwise, there's the current project is the best one.
All right,
But
very
it's still hot.
Is it still hot? I love it. All right, great. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for sharing with us about your hobby. If people want to learn more, where do you recommend they get started?
Well, once again, MABA.
Okay.
Check out that because they're just in the back of their newsletter. Or you can go online. They have a list of equipment for sale. There's always people that are trading up or people that are retiring. That there's always some extra equipment available, and generally at a very good price. And if you want to see samples of work, there's different places around town. I know the DIA has got some samples of some nice work down there. You could even go to our website and look at some of our products and some of our custom stuff. That would be cjforge.net.
Okay.
And that would give you, people can get an idea of what's going on as far as what can be done. But as far as simple projects, though, there's just so much fun you can have just with an anvil, a hammer, and a heat source, and just a little bit of steel.
All right, sounds great. So it's been lovely to talk to you, but we'd really love to actually see some of what you do. How about can you guys demonstrate some of the work and show us how the process is?
Sure, that could be done. More than likely, there is a blacksmith in your neighborhood. Listen to these sounds, and you just might be able to hear it.
Go
because
find
there
them.
are quite a few people in the area, your area included, that do blacksmithing as a hobby. There's a lot of enthusiasm with it. So yeah, definitely check it out.
All right, keep our ears open.
Okay.
All right.
Okay, as far as demonstrating, you got the primary tool running. You got the forge. We're using coke here. It's industrial coke. It will get very hot, and it doesn't produce a lot of scale, which is the oxidation that takes place. I've got a piece of mild steel. It's a 1/4 inch square. This is a very excellent beginning for anybody that wants to do blacksmithing. It's a real simple steel and bent into a very simple shape. But it's a hook with a nail that can be hung in your shop to hang all your other projects that you're making while you're exploring blacksmithing. So to start this, you need to get the steel hot. I generally heat the steel to around 2,000 degrees to start working with it and work until it's down around 11 or 1,200 degrees. And we've got a cast iron fire pot in here, and we've got the blower on the window. What that does is blows the air straight up in there to make the fire hot. Without using that, the blower, that fire would go out in about a half hour. By using it, we can get temperatures in there near 3,000 degrees. Now, a blacksmith shop is usually dark, so you can see the color of the steel. The color would first start appearing around right around 1,100 degrees. Then it's got a nice bright glow. It's called drawing when you stretch steel like this. Drew that to a real fine point the one way and kept it a 1/4 inch the other. Now if you're beginning in blacksmithing, the fire is really hot and the end is very thin. You don't want to leave it in that fire too long, otherwise it could burn up real easy in there. Steel bends really easy when it's hot. A little scroll or curl at the end of the hook is decorative, but it also eliminates a sharp point from the end of the hook. Got the hook. Now we got a lot of extra steel here, so what I'm going to do is cut that off. The anvil that I'm using this is a London pattern anvil. This was a 305-pound Trenton. We do the majority of the work on the face of the anvil right over the waist. The horn is used for shaping pieces round. The step is used for cutting steel. It also gives a shoulder for holding the piece. This end of the anvil is called the heel. This is used after working on fork pieces. But at the heel end has 2 holes in it. The round hole is a Pritchell hole. Use that for punching holes in steel. The square hole is a Hardy hole. Another word for Hardy is a tool or a helper. This one's a bending Hardy. What I'll use to cut that steel is a cut-off Hardy. It's basically just a chisel that cuts up. There's a lot of other tools that fit in that. Tools that could be accumulated at garage sales, flea markets, farm auctions, or at blacksmith meetings. The steel only has to be cut part way. Okay, at this point, the steel's very hot and you still have to move it around. That's where the tongs come in handy. We've got a tong for just about every size steel that there is. When you got a piece of steel that your tongs don't fit, you can make another pair of tongs, which is another really excellent project for beginning. Because in making tongs, you have to make 2 pieces that are identical. You got to make the holes in there, you make the rivet, put them together, and stretch it all out to where it works. A very excellent beginning project. Okay, what I'm going to do now with this hook is heat this section back here and put a decorative twist in it. Most twists are for decorations. The square steel has corners that show up as a twist. The twist round steel, you have to do something for that twist to show, and you have to flatten that out. Some twists like this are a lot more decorative, but a lot more difficult to make. This twist, it's called a diamond twist or a pineapple twist, but that goes both ways. Now the twister, put one end in the vise. And use the tongs to turn the other end. You see what's coming off of here is it's called scale. It's a form of oxide. Iron's natural state is an oxide. So if it's worked unprotected like this or left unprotected, it's going to return to being that way. Now at the end of that, I'm going to forge a square point, actually forging a nail. This is a real old style of a hook. You make a hook this way, you don't have to put a head on the nail or put a hole in the back of the hook. Back when the nails were made by hand, that's how they would start a nail. Now if they wanted a nail with a head on it, what they'd do is cut that, put it in a heading tool, a piece of metal with a square hole in it, set it over the Pritchell hole, and pound down on top of that to make the nail head. That nail head would look similar to the what's holding those hinges on the board. And when it's finished, cool it off in the water. For a beginning project, this is very excellent. It's got a lot of technique. Drawing a flat taper, drawing a square taper, making a small scroll, making a larger bend, doing some twisting. It's got a lot of technique, and it's usable. You just drive that right in the wall and you can hang your next project from it.
Owen and Kevin, thanks again for sharing all that great information and showing us more about what you do. That wraps up another edition of Exploring Hobbies, and we hope you'll join us again for a future show.